Hey, Shalom. All honor and praises go up to Yahweh Bashem El Shai. Double honors to the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutation to the elect. And all the brothers pushing this work in sincerity and truth. This is Brother Thamine from GMS Toronto. Coming at you with another video, right? I've been hitting up Chat GPT, right? Actually, no. Chat GPT for a lot of things lately. And yesterday I was going around visiting Genesis, the sixth chapter, and kind of like got sucked into a rabbit hole, right? And I ended up looking up Enoch, right? The city of that Cain builded, right? And I think I typed in uh Cain Josephus, right? I typed in Josephus. I think I typed in Enoch, right? I typed in so many things, but the city of Cain, right? And Cain was very instrumental in inventing a lot of things, right? He invented walls. He introduced cities being surrounded by walls, right? I think Cain did that because the fact that he was running from justice, he had to hide himself from the beasts of the field, which the other nations. It wasn't just you know other people might just read that and think it's wild animals. No, the beasts of the fields are other nations, man, right? Because that murder was of a prince, a future king, and he himself was a future. He was a patriarch also, right? And I kind of got to the point where it's like he ran from justice, right? And I got into the city that he built and the things that he introduced to the world, right? Um, Let me see where I got to. I read a lot of stuff around here. Let me see if I can remember what I read. Should have screenshotted them, but it's all good. Oh yeah, so what I did was pretty much characterize Cain and what he did and compared him to Esau. And you can see the spirit is very, very similar, right? The things that Cain did and his descendants, right? And when you go into this, it tells you one Cain's son will die, and then the other one through the line will raise up and be way more wicked than the other. Just like when you read in the book of Maccabees, when it tells you evils were multiplied on the earth. This is the same thing happened here with Cain's descendants. I'm gonna read what the Josephus said about Cain, the line of Cain, right? Because he was a murderer from the beginning, all right? And we'll see what he did, and we'll do some comparisons. And also the next video that's coming out, I'm pretty much going to be talking about, I'm going to be comparing the city of Enoch, right, which is what Cain builded, and the city of Nod, right, which is an extension of the city of Enoch, right? And I'm going to compare them to Babylon the Great, right? And further ado, it says here, this is and when Cain had traveled over many countries, because he was fleeing, he with his wife, and that's another thing, Cain and Abel Adam and Eve weren't the only two people on the planet Earth. Okay, like we went over this a million times that these people, they were just from the chosen line, right? Adam was from the chosen line, but there are other people, beasts of the field, other trees in the garden around. Okay. Anyways, and when Cain traveled over many countries, he, with his wife, built a city named Nod, right? Or Nod, which in a place so called, and there settled his abode. Okay, so let's click on Nod, see what it means. Uh, lower and raise one's head. Okay. Have one's head. Let me see. No mistake. Click down to make quick downward motion with the head. I guess it won't give you. I guess Enoch was more insightful. Anyways, I might come back to the definition of that word and why he named the city Nod, right? Because I don't want to lose this point, which is a place so called, and there he settled his abode, where also he had children. However, he did not accept of his punishment. So, in other words, he did not repent, right? Just like how Esau, these Edomites are not repenting, the same spirit is on Cain, right? Because it's gonna tell you what he's about to do. That shows that he wasn't remorseful for murdering his brother. Okay, however, he did not accept of his punishment, which is that leprosy, right? In order to amendment, but to increase his wickedness, for he only aimed to procure everything that was for his own bodily pleasure. So let's look up that word procure and see what he got into. The word procure, obtain something special with or effort, right? And the same thing that Esau was given, right? He was given the sword as a weapon, and Cain, his name literally means weapon or dagger, right? To get possession of something, right? So they went around the Cain's descendants. They went around um, stealing and taking. Okay, we'll get more into what they got into. Everything that was for his own bodily pleasure sounds like a carnal man to me. Okay, and this wasn't a random person. This was a Adam's son who was taught the right way, right? He was taught the sacrifices and everything, but he just went. He was the left hand, right? Spiritual demon Satan was on him, man, right? Just like Esau, though it obliged him to be injurious to his neighbors, right? So let's look up that word injurious, right? So they're causing or likely to cause damage or harm, right? When you see how Esau, Edom is going around the earth right now, pillaging, robbing, bombing, it's the same thing that Cain was doing, right? He's injurious to his neighbors. America just goes around, which Esau, Edom, even when you go back to the Romans, the same thing. They go around and they destroy nations, right? They destroy, the Middle East, so-called Middle East, which is north of Africa, right? If you want to call it that, Middle East is, that's a new term. Anyways, he augmented his household. So let's see what that means. These are the words I looked up also at work. Having been made great or size or value. So this was what he was chasing. He was chasing respect, right? Because that stain was on him, murdering his brother. So he was chasing possession. He was chasing respect, because no one respected him. So he had to get the respect through violence, just like Esau, right? In times past, no one respected Esau, but now he commands respect because of his armies, right? And the way he does things, right? His punishments are lethal, and the whole world knows that, okay? His household, right? He made it larger, with substances and wealth, and much wealth, just like how Esau is, right? And he enlarged his nation through by wealth, by robbing the other nations of their gold, of their silver, of their the natural resources, right? By rapine, that's that word, rapine. Violent seizure of someone's property. So he's a thief. Okay? Esau, Edom. Isn't this the same thing that you see America does? Isn't it the same thing that the Romans did? So you're seeing the characteristics of both um, the Edomites and the Canaanites. They're very identical. All right? So the Lord said there is nothing new under the sun. Right? And violence. Right? He exalted his acquaintance to procure pleasures and spoils by robbery. So procure pleasures. I tried getting that, in one word, but it won't give me. You already know what procure means. That also can lead to sex, right? Now they're giving you a different definition here, but it also to obtain. When you go down here, it can also mean something else, which label obsolete, obtain, procure, to instigate, to contrive, to bring out, right? So he pretty much had influence on the people, right? His acquaintances, his neighbors. Just like how now the scripture talks about wine, Esau, Edom's wine, right? So this is how he pretty much had the Sethites in shambles back then, okay? Spoils by robbery, become a great leader of men into wicked courses, right? He also introduced a lot of things. He also introduced a change in the way of simplicity wherein men lived, and was the author of measures and weights. And whereas they lived innocently and generously, while they knew nothing of such arts, right? So the spiritual demon Satan was dealing with this man, okay, and his descendants. He changed the world into cunning craftiness, just like Esau, Edom. He first of all set boundaries about lands, right? Right. So he built walls. He built a city and fortified it with walls because he was running from that justice, man. Right. He was afraid that the nations would come and destroy his ass. So he pretty much had to hide himself. Okay, protect himself by pretty much fortifying walls. Okay, and he compelled his family to come together to it. So this was pretty much etched in stone through the sea line, and called the city Enoch after the name of his eldest son. Now Jared was the son of Enoch, whose son was Malaliel, whose son was Methuselah, whose son was Lamech. So when you come down to Lamech, that's another problem right here, because he knew about the prophecy of his great 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 grandfather, man, right? Cain. And he bragged to his wives too in Genesis the 4th chapter, who had 77 children by two wives. Okay, such as Silla, it's in the scripture says Zillah and Ada. Of the children of Ada, one Jabal. This is another wicked motherfucker right here. Lamech was wicked, Jabal was wicked, Malaliel was wicked, right? Enoch was wicked. He erected tents and loved the life of a shepherd. But Jubal, right, who was born of the same mother with him, exercised himself in music and invented psaltery. So this is how the corruption through music started, right? And harp. But Tubal, here he is, Tubal Cain, right? Lamech, Tubal Cain. This is the different Canaanites, right? And one of the children by his wife exceeded all men in strength, and was very expert and famous in martial performances, which is what? War, right? He was an expert in war. He procured what tended to the pleasures of the body by that method, right? And first of all, invented the arts of making brass, so weapons, right? Lamech was also the father of the daughter of who was named Nama, right? Whose name was Nama, and because he was so skillful in matters of divine revelation, so when you go into this, I think it goes into being a seer or a sorcerer, that he knew he was to be punished for Cain's murder. So he knew that down the bloodline, he's supposed to be punished for that, right? I think Lamech, yeah. So he did talk about it, right? And he knew also that they couldn't be touched. That's another thing, right? For Cain's murder of his brother, he made that known to his wives, nay, even while Adam was alive. It came to pass that posterity of Cain became exceedingly wicked. So they're the ones that corrupted the Setites, okay? And the whole world, the whole known world back then. Everyone successfully dying, and one after another, more wicked than the former, right? It says here they were intolerable in war and vehement in robberies, right? And many were slow to murder people. And if any no one were slow to murder people, yet was the bold in his profligate behavior, in acting unjustly and doing injuries for gain, right? So let's get and wickedness. Salakia. Wickedness multiplied. This is Maccabees. These are the same people, okay? Different name. First Maccabees 1. It says, and it came to pass came a wicked root, right? Antiochus, the illustrious, the son of King Antiochus, who had been a hostage at Rome, right? These are the Edomites who had beef with each other after taking over from Alexander the Great, right? He reigned in the 130 year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So this is the third beast right here, which you Christians fail to acknowledge. In those days went out wicked men of Israel, and they persuaded many. So you see, this same thing happened in the time of Cain, in the time of the Setites, Adam's descendants through Seth, okay? In times past. So the scripture says there is nothing new under the sun. This is exactly what happened. Because after these men took over, people are always going to bow down to the power that be, right? And they persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, many evils have befallen us. It says here, and the word seemed good in their eyes. And some of the people determined to do this, and went to the king, and he gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Isn't that what the same thing I just read about Cain? Right? And he built a place of exercise in Jerusalem according to the laws of the nations. Right? Where it says evils are multiplied. It says, is it evils? Evils were multiplied, just like in Maccabees 1 and 9. Did I read that already? And so let's talk about Alexander. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth, just like Cain's descendants. Right? It says one after one died, another one rose up, and he was wicked than the last one, man. Same thing with these Edomites, and same thing with these Greeks, right? The same thing they did back then, the same thing they did in the future, okay? And it's the same thing they're doing now. Isn't it the same? You see American president, one after the other. Every time one dies or when one falls off, another one comes, and one gets more wicked than the other. Okay? You go around conquering. Right, it says here, there is nothing. Let me just get that. There is nothing new under the sun. Let's just get that just to get it out the way. So, like, yeah. There is nothing new. Under the sun. It says Ecclesiastes 1 and 9 says here, the thing that hath been, which is, these kingdoms, these bodies, right, these spirits, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is nothing new under the sun, right? And that goes for men, that goes for spirits, that goes for kingdoms, right? That goes for philosophies, that goes for gods, right? And it goes on and on and on, right? Yeah, so Cain, let me get that again. Cain's descendants, right? Josephus. Antiquities of Josephus, right? So when you come down here, and I've read a lot of things, to procure pleasures and spoiled by robberies, right? So when you drop down to the end, it talks about it again, where it says that they were intolerable in war and vehement in robberies. So Esau, Edom. What does America? No, let's get into Esau first. Your blessing is the sword. No, by the sword, by the sword. Let's go to Genesis 29. By the sword thou shalt live. Shall thou live. All right, let's get into Genesis 27, actually. It says here, and by the sword shalt thou live, which is Isaac's blessing him, right? And shall serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, thou shalt break his yoke off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, days of my mourning and the mourning for my father are at hand, and then I will slay my brother Jacob. And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau is touching thee, doth comfort him, proposing to kill thee. So his mother heard him and took her son away from him, right? Or else the same thing would have happened. Fatness of the earth. Genesis 27 and 28. Therefore, Yahweh gave thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of corn and wine, right? Let people serve thee and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy brother, the mother's son, bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and bless thee everyone that bless thee. Which one is this? No, that's Jacob's blessing, Salakia. It's down here. Okay. Isaac, my father, said unto... Yeah, this is it. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and with the dew of heaven from above, and by the sword thou shalt live. And that comes with a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of responsibility. I would say responsibility, or rulership. I would say rulership. That comes with the rulership also, right? By thy sword thou shalt live, right? And the fatness of the earth. So that means he's gonna go around and conquering the nations and stealing their resources. Because we can go into the history of America and what they did in order to conquer. Not even America only. We can go into the British. We can go into the Greeks. We can go into the Romans. We can go into the Spaniards. We can go into the Netherlands, right? We can go into the Portuguese. All of them had their hand. We can even go into these guys, Belgium and the Congo, right? What they did in the 1900 in colonial rule in Congo, right? You can go into the history and see what happened, right? From the 1900s to the 1960s, a lot of people died. A lot of Israelites died down here, right? Belgium, Congo, right? Former colony coextensive with the present day Republic of the Congo, right? When you go into that, let's see how many people died. How many people died in the Congo? Belgium rule. Estimation or estimates suggest that as many as 10 million, it's more than that, it's over 100 million. Congolese died during the Congo Free State period from 1885 to 1908. Let's see what the Germans did in let's see what the Germans Slovakia did in is it Rwanda? No, not Rwanda. Is it Uganda? I can't remember. The German, based on the research, gremlins. Slovakia, Germans in Africa. Let's see what country pops up. This is stealing of lands, right? Colonial Africa from the 1854 to 1919. Namibia and Tanzania, right? Southwest Africa and Burundi. They're also in Rwanda too, but now these people are fighting back for their lands. It's Namibia. Germans in Namibia. In Namibia, right? And they have they literally think that this land is theirs. Approximately 30,000 Namibians of German descent, about 2% of the country's population. And guess who owns the majority of the wealth and the land? Them. Live in Namibia, maintaining a distinct culture identity with German medium schools, media, and churches. Descendants of colonial era settlers. They are significant minority, while the legacy of the 1884 to 1915 German Southwest Africa colony continues. So let's see how they got that. Concentration camps. This happened, okay? And they got that through violence. During the 1904 to 1908, Herero and Nama genocide, Germany colonial forces operated concentration camps in German Southwest Africa, now Namibia, right? Most notably on the Shark Island, to incarcerate indigenous populations, right? Conditions were brutal, characterized by forced labor, starvation, and disease, resulting in thousands of deaths, including the majority of inmates of Shark Island prior to 1907. Okay, so they got that also, just like how Cain was, tell you he was injurious to his neighbors, right? And they went around conquering. So it's the same thing. So now the chicken's coming home to roost. Okay, so that's the MO of Esau, Edom, the MO of Cain, and that's also the MO of these modern day colonists or colonial rulers, right? It runs in the blood, and the script talks about removing landmarks. Okay, this is exactly what they did. And when they got into these countries, guess what? They took all their resources. Okay, this is Proverbs 23:10 says, "Remove not the old landmark, and enter not into the fields of the fatherless." Right, for the Redeemer is mighty; he shall plead their cause with thee. And these Israelites that you remove their landmarks, you call their lands by your names. Now the culture is there. The Lord is gonna listen, man. The Lord is gonna redeem all these people and their lands, man. Right? They're gonna get them back. All the gold that you took, right? The gold taken out of Africa, because these are Israelites' land from Europe. Okay. You can easily click on this, and you can see all the places where these European countries they pretty much split up the land of Ham, which our people are here still. Right, when you go into the north up here, there's petroleum and natural gases. Right, there's iron and ore, there's cotton, there's crude oil. Right, and you come into the central part, there's gold, there's coffee, there's tea. Right, and all these natural resources that you see here. Right, none of these rulers actually own these things. Okay, they're pretty much companies in Europe that own these. All right, and we're not even going to go into the Middle East, the so-called Middle East. All right, so let's see all the let's see how Africa is split up, split into European companies. Let's see anything pops up. See the same map comes up, right? Swedish South Africa, Romania, Central Africa, right? So this man has a hand in everything that you see that is called destruction. Okay? Right? When you read about Cain, he did the same thing. Right? They were mercenaries. Right? They were thieves. Let me get this in Obadiah and get out of here. If the thief and destroy it. I get this first and I get Obadiah. It says John 10:10, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. And the elect, they're gonna put their trust in Yahweh Shemir Shai. Right? That's the reason why we can make videos like this and tell you who the thief is. Right? And this time was the Romans. Right? And hundreds of years before that was the Greeks. And these Edomites are the son of perdition. right? And Yahushua, that's the reason why Yahushua, died for the elect's sake, because if it wasn't for that, then all of us would have been just stranded under this man's rulership. And if the Messiah doesn't take him down, he's going to be ruling forever, man. Trust and behold, he might rule, and he will rule until he destroy himself, but he will still be ruling. He'll be under the ground, underground, man. Until he's ready to come back out again, like how he planned. But it's not gonna go as he